Hi guys, today we're going to show you how to make this really festive table topper. I really love this project because it only requires 6 fat quarters, so you probably already have the materials in your stash. And it's super fast to whip up, so you can get it done and on your table in maybe just half a day. First, gather all your materials. You'll find the instructions at the link below. Now we're going to take our 4 3/4 inch squares, and on the cream, or the lighter fabrics, we're going to mark a diagonal line on the wrong side. This is a solid, so either side is fine. We're just marking from corner to corner. And now we will take one of our red squares and layer it with one of our cream squares. Right sides together. Now we're going to sew. So now we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of the marked line. The nice thing about this 1/4 inch foot from Bernina is both sides are a 1/4 inch, so it's super easy to just line up one side, sew down that way, and then do it on the other side too. Once you've sewn all the squares together, we'll trim on the marked line. Trim all of your squares, and then you'll want to press them and press the seam toward the red. So we've done that with a couple of these already. So do that to all of your squares. Once you have all your triangle squares pressed, then you will mark half of them from each pile. And we are marking on the diagonal perpendicular to that seam line. Once you've marked them all, then you'll take 2 squares with the same color and layer them, and we are facing opposite directions now with the color. So you want the cream facing the red and the red facing the cream. Layer them all, and then we'll do the same thing where we're sewing a 1/4 inch on either side of that marked line. So once you've sewn all of your squares again, we're going to trim on the marked line. This is a really great technique for taking 2 triangle squares and making an hourglass unit. It's so much easier. Once you've trimmed, you can press the seams open and you have your hourglass unit. Now that we have pressed all of our hourglass blocks, we're laying them out in a 6x4 grid, and you're going to alternate the red and the cream. And I just kind of did this. You can do this scrappy if you want. I like a little more order, so I was doing them in an alternating pattern. And then we'll just sew that together. Now that you've sewn all the hourglass pieces together, you could stop here, but we're going to add a nice little pieced border to really pump it up just a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing we were doing before, and we're marking the diagonal on our smaller squares. These are 2 inches. And we're going to mark the diagonal on both cream print squares. We'll layer them with our red 2-inch squares, and then do the same thing. So a 1/4 inch from each diagonal drawn line. Once you've sewn the squares together, now we can cut them on the marked line. And on these, we're just going to stop at just the triangle square step. We're not going to go ahead and make these into hourglass blocks. So we will press those open toward the red, and this will be the corners of our border. Once you've pressed your squares, you'll trim them to 1.5 inches square. Now we're going to lay out our top. So we've got our border pieces around the edge, and we're alternating the white and the red print. And then we've added our little triangle squares on the corners. And now we're going to sew those together. We're going to sew the long edges together and then the short edges with the triangle squares into strips. With your borders sewn together, you can sew them to the center of your table mat. And you'll want to start with the long strips first. Now that we've pieced the top of our mat, we can get it ready for quilting. So we have our backing fabric, and that's face down, and then on the inside we are using Warm Company's Insulbright. And this has a reflective layer in it, so this will help protect your table against heat. So this is a really nice way to make your table mat both functional and beautiful. So we can layer it together, and then we will get it ready for quilting. Since we're getting really close to Christmas, we're going to finish this really fast with just some simple stitch in the ditch.